Good evening and welcome to the first installment in our how-to guide. As coming up shortly will be the fifth night of Hanukka, we're going to start with Ḥanukka Candles. Now, you might see that it's still quite light out. It's not sunset just yet. The halacha requires that candles be lit at sunset, neither earlier nor later as specified in the halacha. Post facto, if a person were unable to light at sunset, the halacha does provide that one may continue to light until such time, and this is the wording in the Talmud, until such time as there are no longer people active in the marketplace. It is a matter of dispute as to whether the time, which would be approximately half an hour, is the actual requirement or limit, and the activity in the marketplace is a sign for that time, which was a thing in ancient times, or whether the activity in the marketplace is actually the requirement or the limit, because people are meant to see the candles. And the half-hour estimate was what was normal in those days. The point being, now we have streetlights and the like. People stay up later. Is the limit half an hour, as it was in ancient times, or is it until people are no longer active in public, as it was in ancient times? Those two measures are divorced from each other now. That's an open question of halacha, and I'm not going to be explaining it now. We'll just leave that for the moment. The proper place to light candles is at the front door. Halacha says that you have the mezuzah on the right as one goes in. Candles are meant to be lit on the left, so that you have the mezuzah on the right and the candles on the left, or as you're going out, the opposite. However, you may see that I have some interest here. I have two cats who are quite fond of getting out of the house, and one of them was actually missing for 2 weeks and just came back day before yesterday. So I am not going to be lighting here specifically so as to obviate the concern for that particular problem. I will show you inside how we can light, so I'll be back with you shortly. The next best option as to where to light is at the front window of the house, facing the street. However, you might see that my front window is quite low. I have some flammable materials here, and the cats can very easily get to it, so I am not going to be lighting here either. Next option, according to some opinions, is the dining room table. Realistically, however, the next best option is any place else where you can. So you'll see here I've got some candles set up. Now, you'll notice these are tea lights. There are some opinions that say it is preferable to light with oil, to recall the miracle of the oil in the temple. In fact, there are some opinions that say that it is obligatory to light with oil. However, I'm going to leave that at the moment as a matter of opinion. For ease of explanation, I am choosing these tea lights. You will notice that they are not arranged in any specific sort of candelabrum. There is no requirement to use a particular candelabrum. It has annoyed me to no end this year how many people have commented online whenever seeing a picture of a menorah, Hanukkiah as it's also known. Oh, that's not kasher because the candles aren't all aligned, or hey, they've got them in the wrong direction, or they've got them in the wrong places. There is no specific requirement to have a candelabrum of any design. There is no requirement that the candles all be in a single row, that they be lined up, or that they be at the same level. That is a myth. I'm not quite sure where it came from. The tradition has developed in many communities that where one is lighting on a candelabrum with them in line, that one lights in a specific order. And I will rearrange to show you. So let's presume we have 5 candles in a row because it is the 5th day or 5th night. That when one adds new candles, one begins from the rightmost spot and moves across to the left. So this is the first place, second place, third, fourth, fifth. And if I had 3 extra spaces, they would be here on the left of my vision. And then when one begins to light, one begins from the left, that's here, and moves across, always lighting the newest candle first and the oldest candle last. However, that is a custom that is developed. It is by no means obligatory. Now, some of you may also be a little confused, because I've said it's the 5th night, I only have 5 candles here. The extra candle, commonly referred to as the shamash, is called the shamash from the Hebrew verb l'shamesh, which means to serve, or to assist in this case. It's sometimes referred to as the helper candle. Has traditionally had 2 functions. One of them is halakha, one of them is just a matter of convenience or practice. And the way it would work is people would light the shamash first, and then they would use that one when they use the little thin candles to light the other candles as they go across. That is by no means a requirement. It is a custom, and it's nigh impossible when one is using tea lights. The other issue that requires a shamash, and this is the actual halachic basis for having one, is that the requirement to light Hanukka candles is itself a mitzvah. The candles are meant to be used only for the purpose of the mitzvah, which means if those are the only lights you have, you may not use them to read. You may not use the light of the candles to read because they are only to be used for the mitzvah, and they are not yours to use. Therefore, halakha says one must have an extra candle in order to serve as his light, shall we say, for his own purposes. So if a person wants to read, he's got 6 candles, 5 of them are designated as being for the mitzvah. The 6th one is the non-Ḥanukka candle, and you may use that one. Of course, how can you tell whether you're using one or you're using all 6? Realistically, there's a whole bunch of light coming from the same direction. It doesn't matter because the fact that there is one candle and you could read without the other 5 present means that you can read using that one candle, and the presence of the other 5 does not detract from that. Why do I not have this extra candle? Well, simply put, that's why. In the modern world, we have electric lighting. There is no requirement to have a shamash in modern times if you have electric lights. Now, if I were to turn off all of the lights in this room and only have the Ḥanukka candles going, then I would not be able to read from the light coming off the Ḥanukka candles unless I added one extra candle. But because we have electric lights, there is no need for a shamash whatsoever. I have 5 candles here for the 5th night. Now, the actual requirement, the base requirement, is to light 1 candle each night. So, over 8 nights, 8 candles. The preferable method is to light 1 candle per member of the household each night. So if you have 10 people in your household, you would light 10 candles the first night, 10 the second night, 10 the third, etc., until you have 10 on the last night, and that is a total of 80 over the course of the holiday. The preferable, meaning the best possible way, the most preferable way to light the candles, is to start with 1 the first night, and then to go to 2 the second night, and 3 the third night, and continue increasing until one ends with 8 on the last night. There is, however, some ambiguity in this. Is that preferable to 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, etc., just to light 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? Or does it mean on top of? Meaning, instead of lighting 10, 10, 10, 10, etc., if you have 10 people in your household, you light 10, then 20, then 30, and add 1 per person each night. The traditional Ashkenazic understanding of this has been that it is 1 per person per night increasing. So 10, 20, 30, etc. The traditional Sephardic understanding has been that it is instead of, meaning, doesn't matter how many people you have in your household, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Interestingly, Maimonides, who lived about 800 years ago, said that the proper way to do it is 10, 20, 30, 80, through to 80. However, despite the fact that that's actually the requirement of the highest form, in our communities, we only ever had a tradition of lighting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Kind of interesting, that. Okay. Regardless, I've got 5 candles here for the 5th night. As I said, the most communities use an 8-branched candelabrum, actually 9-branched, because they have this extra space for the shamash. In Ashkenazi communities, they generally have 1 per person in order to do the 1, 2, 3, 4 per person each night. It ended up getting into a tradition where everybody would light his own, each one with his own shamash, which is quite interestingly. However, even if that is what is done, which is perfectly permissible, one may not say a bracha on each one individually, because the obligation is for the household, not the individual. And therefore, if 1 person in the house has lit candles, the obligation is fulfilled, and anything beyond that is extra, which is great, but you cannot say a bracha on extra. In Sephardic communities, where the tradition is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, regardless of how many people are in the household, They just generally light one Hanukkiah, and that is it. Okay, how do we actually light it? Well, we've got some matches here, and I'm going to use these as an example. There are 2 barachot for the Ḥanukka candles. The first one is Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddeshanu b'meswatho v'sabonu lehavlik ner shel Hanukka. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim la'avotenu b'yamim ha'hem b'zaman hazeh. Then, after one recites the 2 barachot, one lights the first candle. Then the tradition is to recite Hanerot Halalu, which is found in the Siddur. And then after that, to go back and to light the rest of them. And at this point, I will need to light another match because I don't want to burn my fingers. I think the reason the tradition developed to light from left to right is because most people are right-handed, and it's just wise to light on the left first, and then to move across to the right, so you don't burn yourself by reaching over an already lit flame. Which is why I lit in the weird pattern that I did, because I don't want to burn myself. After they're lit, the tradition in some communities is to recite a chapter from Tehillim, and the song Ma'os Sur is often sung. That is just a tradition, but it's a pleasant song if you're into it. And that, right there, is how Ḥanukka candles are lit. On the first night of Ḥanukka, one recites a 3rd baracha, which is Shehachayanu, which is the standard extra baracha that one recites the first time one does a mitzvah within a year or on a special occasion. If, for whatever reason, a person were unable to light the first night, for example, he was traveling. If you're traveling, you stop in an airport somewhere, you do not light candles in the airport. There's no candle lighting in the airport because you do not reside there. It's meant to be in your place of residence, even if it's temporary. If you're staying with a friend for the night, you don't light in your own home because your friend is lighting for everyone in the household. You are part of the household for that night. If for whatever reason you were unable to light or to have someone lighting for you on the first night, then whenever the first night you do light candles is, you will then recite Shehechayanu. There we are, Ḥanukka candles in my own little circular pattern, using tea lights, which, as I said, is not valid according to all opinions, but it's the easiest for demonstration purposes. If you're not sure about the use of oil, I suggest you speak to those whom you trust for such matters and discuss that. I will not give any definitive rulings on matters that are up to debate. That is for you to discuss with those individuals whom you trust to render such rulings or opinions. However, where there are matters that are strictly fabrications, for example, you must light from left to right, there is no basis in halakha for that. I will call it out where it seems. Anyway, there are the Ḥanukka candles, as it were, and wishing you all the best.